Student Congress was just this great opportunity to see students learning and seeing how they wanted to learn, how they wanted to take part in their learning. And it was like lifting a fog from the eyes of students in our district.
And it was all student-led, which was really great, and it was very positive.
I opened up more into the conversation of Act 77 and bringing it to the schools in the districts around our area.
On Monday, April 4th, middle and high school students from Chelsea, South Royalton, Whitcomb, and Rochester gathered to discuss changes in education, such as Act 77, personalized learning plans, and flexible pathways. The event was designed by the members of the Communicating School Redesign Vermont initiative and completely facilitated by high school students.
To start today, we're going to do like an introduction exercise with everybody. So first, try to make a big single file circle around the room, which might be hard to record. If you were to write an autobiography about yourself today, what would be the title of it and why? And don't forget to mention your name and what school you're from.
I'm Ryan. I go to South Royalton. My autobiography would probably be titled Food, a Love Story.
My name is Brianna. I am from Rochester, and my autobiography would be No One's Going to Read This Autobiography.
I'm Brendan Stryker from South Royalton, and my autobiography for the day is Make School Great Again.
We're open to everyone's ideas and opinions. Yeah, there's really not going to be. So the first one is being present. I want you guys to tell me what you think that might be. And you're going to choose one sentence, one phrase, which is an incomplete sentence, and one word that best captures the meaning of this page.
We pulled out the words engaging, options, individual, purpose, co-creating, and community.
Options: rigorous, engaging, customized, Vermont, high quality, relevant choice, future choice, and opportunities choice.
We believe that students should have the ability to be able to integrate with the educators on how they go about learning things, whether that's getting credit for going out and taking an internship or anything along those lines. They should be able to get credit and they should be able to curate this and make it personalized to them.
We learn in different ways, and we should have teachers be able to teach us material in the ways that can help us, as well as letting people who do think in a standardized way to be taught in a standardized way.
People think in different kind of ways, man. I mean, some people just have creative minds. Some just have analytical minds. You can't force someone to go into a certain system when they just don't work with that kind of system.
Mentioning the social aspect of school, just because someone is not social does not mean that they are not intelligent, and they may not fit in with different social groups, but they may strive in academics and different subjects.
By having an online class, I didn't have to rely on a teacher to tell me what to write. I still have a teacher, but I feel like online you definitely have a lot more flexibility. You have a lot more options on what you can read. In my English class, you're not assigned one book that the whole class has to read. It's also a much smaller class. There's only 8 or 9 people in my whole English class online, but you do get to interact with them throughout the year. In 10th grade, I did an independent Norwegian class that I kind of constructed with my own workbook, and I checked in with a language teacher now and again, and then I did that for the past year just to get a basis in Norwegian. And then this year I'm taking an online Norwegian course with the University of North Dakota, and that has been a really cool experience. So I'm currently enrolled in that as well as high school, so it's a dual enrollment course. I'm going to Norway this summer, and it'll be really helpful to be able to speak the language and be able to talk to everyone in my family.
So I have a few different pathways that I'm pursuing. Probably the biggest one is a legislative internship at the State House in Montpelier. This is my 3rd year. I started freshman year. So what that sort of entails is I chose a representative. I chose Sarah Buxton, who actually represents our town in Tunbridge, and she's also on the education committee. I chose this pathway because sort of our government and the processes within interest me. I like to see how we all work in our democracy. So that leads me to my second pathway. I'm also a dual enrollment student. Last semester I took a Intro to Political Science course through CCV. This semester I'm taking a class entitled The Constitution through UVM. I wasn't too sure a few years ago if the whole political science way was right for me, because I didn't really know much about it. But through this internship and then my online classes, I sort of gained a lot of knowledge and thought, yeah, this stuff is what interests me. I do want to look at this through sort of a career further in life.
And no one will say a single word. There are only 2 rules, so it's pretty easy. Everyone participates, no one speaks.
We need to not just tweak it so it's better learning for, again, because that's building the Common Core, assuming that visually based learners are learning in all the same way, and all people that are learning from lectures are getting the same lecture. It needs to be personalized, not just put into smaller groups.
I think it needs to be a series of little tweaks. It's not just going to be like you walk into school one year and it's 100% different.
And I think
it's important that over time.
I think that's why we need, this is a good thing to have, because it started out with just a few people knowing what Act 77 was, why schools need to change, and now we have this whole big group here learning about it, and the more people that we give knowledge about it to, the more audience will reach, and the more people will know why we need to change, not just how, but the why is the really important part.
Like, I feel with this, like I feel the same way. Like, I feel like there does need to be a radical approach, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes there's so much call for change that we forget what already works and what doesn't work. We forget to divide between that.
With the personal learning plan, I think it's going to be easier to be, oh, I want to do this, even though I'm a senior year, I can do it. I didn't have to wait, I didn't have to do it like for 2 years. It's like,
Cameron, I get what you're saying about not wanting to set in stone your personalized learning plan, because even in college, like, people go for majors and they realize this is not for them. But this is exactly what they're made for. They're made to be able to be changed. So if, like, you make a plan and that ends up not working, it's just as easy to change it as it was to make it.
I know with my, like, personal learning plan stuff, I think it's easier when I have my parents' guidance there, because they helped me through everything. I feel like they would be able to help me.
But that doesn't work in every case is the problem. Sometimes you have parents that want them to do something completely different than what they want to do.
To get kids interested, you have to make it relatable to them.
Yeah, I feel like
there's this memorable part in a movie about women's suffrage where there's these like really educated suffragettes talking to a bunch of female workers, and they're saying like, oh, this is about, democracy and your civic duty, and the workers like, no, what are you talking about? That means nothing to me. So then one of these educated women like gets a bright idea, and they say a vote means a fire escape. If you have a vote, you can build a fire escape in the building and the factory you work in. And now suddenly you see all these working women going, oh, I see, I get it. This makes sense. This is why I need to do this.
I know that when I was in 8th grade, I wouldn't have, like, what I would have chosen then would be completely different than what I would have chosen right now. So it needs to be structured in such a way that you're able to transition to stuff, not necessarily seamlessly, but pretty flawlessly, and have some things still carry over. If you can do something and have it, and like change and then not have anything carry over, what good was it?
Well, like,
it's completely unbeneficial.
a lot of us are saying how it's not exactly what you learn, but how you learn it. And I find that even now in a lot of my classes, I'll learn something and I can apply either how I learned it or what I learned to another class that seems so different, like with my math and my anthropology or anything that seems so different, but they're actually all connected.
And talk about some shining moments of the day, things that you learned, things that you liked, what you think you're going to bring back to your school, what you talked about, anything about your day that you want to comment on.
I feel like the best part of today was when we met up with our schools and discussed how we would bring it back. So just take the time and go through how we would want to see it change and why, and what we may or may not agree with certain things. That's probably more educational than talking about just general things.
I second that because I think that it really made it easy to talk about the issues personally in our school that we would like to change and how we would like to make it more versatile for every student in our school.
The best part of this day was coming in here. I didn't know anything about Act 77. And coming in here and learning about it and bringing it back to my school and making a bigger change than is actually happening and going on is better than just leaving it alone and pushing it out of the road.
For me, Student Congress was a nice opportunity to notice that there are other students around here that share the same feelings about me and that we all want to improve the education system and learn how to have greater education for ourselves and those in the next generations to come.
We can learn about the fields and the subjects that we want to learn about that will help us in our later on lives and career. So we can actually sit through a class that we like instead of falling asleep or texting on our phones and not be engaged.